Man, I wish I was 1/10 as smart and 1/10 as fluid speaking as Tucker Carlson. Guy's so fucking smart, man. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that smart in my life. I work with a lot of smart people in my life. Really have. Doctors and engineers. Tucker's fucking, he's on another level. Well, he's still catching up with me. He reported on two things today that I reported on earlier today. And now he's talking about the asymptomatic carrier thing. I reported on that earlier as well. But he wants to expound on this. So let's listen just for a minute here to Tucker's show tonight.
Global lockdowns, which destroyed the world's economy and caused untold human suffering, because they warned that anyone could spread the coronavirus, even people with no symptoms.
Asymptomatic.
And then yesterday, a top World Health Organization official said something very different. Actually, asymptomatic spread happens rarely, if ever.
We have a number of reports from countries who are doing very detailed contact tracing. They're following asymptomatic cases, they're following contacts, and they're not finding secondary transmission onward. It's very rare.
Well, that seemed pretty straightforward, but lots of people were not happy to hear it, because that would mean that the most economically self-destructive act in all of human history may not have been justified. But conveniently, today, the World Health Organization walked back that statement. In fact, they said, we really don't know how common asymptomatic spread of the Wuhan coronavirus is. So what is the truth, to the extent we can know? Fox Medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel is the one we always ask, and we're happy to do so again tonight. Hey, doctor.
Tucker, two stories tonight. The first you just mentioned, World Health Organization. Second one, I'm going to talk about testing. Now, I've been very hard on the WHO, and I've pointed out that they called it a regional conflict in January, that in February they were encouraging international travel at a time when it was spreading around the world, COVID-19, and in early March they still weren't calling it a pandemic. I felt kind of bad, Tucker. So yesterday, when I heard that Maria Van Kerkhoff, who's their head of emerging diseases, Dr. Kerkhoff trained at the London School of Tropical Medicine. She's a top epidemiologist, and I thought, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. She's saying asymptomatic spread is very rare. And I thought, finally, a shining star coming out of the WHO I can hang my hat on. Well, guess what? Today she walks the whole thing back, and she says, hey, I wasn't talking about pre-symptomatic spread, meaning people who didn't yet get sick. Well, CDC says right before you have symptoms is one of the biggest times of spreading. And then she said, and there's 16% of cases don't have symptoms at all, and we don't know how many of them are spreading. Wow. Walks the whole thing back, and now I'm left thinking, how can we possibly trust the WHO at all? Which leads me to my second topic tonight, testing. If we don't know how many people are spreading this right before they get sick, or are spreading it when they're not sick, less likely, she's still calling that rare, by the way, but less likely, most likely right before you get sick, then we need testing to tell us, don't we? Well, Admiral Brett Giroir of HHS announced to the coronavirus task force today, and I've interviewed him, by the way, he's very straightforward, and he said to the task force today, according to Brietbart, 70 testing centers in the United States were temporarily closed down because of the protests. So while these people were huddling together and possibly spreading COVID-19, and I was saying, you know, there's no sign of a spike in the cases, guess what we weren't doing? We weren't able to test anyone in the area. So how much of a contradiction is that? We need our testing. We need our officials to be honest with us. We need to know the real science here, and we don't need anybody jumping to false conclusions and misleading us any further about COVID-19, Tucker.
That's the understatement of the week. Dr.
You gotta love Tucker. When he gets these interviews, people interview him. He listens to him. He looks like a puppy dog. Like his mouth is usually wide open. He stopped that. Somebody told him to close his mouth down. But it's really funny when he listens to people. And man, you see, now apparently they don't even know what the fuck they're even doing at all. Lockdowns are obviously not necessary, or at least the quote science that they say is based upon is not science at all. They can't call it science if they don't know what the fuck it is. They can't even test now. I mean, apparently there's been a little gap in the testing because of the quote demonstrations. And well, actually, I'll say that I'll say because of the riots, because for something to close down in fear of being open, not just because of the protests. I would call it because of the riots. Okay, so the riots are definitely affecting testing, and it's all messed around. But the point I want to make in all this is, remember, I was speaking a couple of days ago about the fact that we've already lost something. No matter what happens, when this is all over, we've already lost a few things. And one of the most important things we've lost, besides our fucking veterans memorials, is our trust and confidence in our healthcare systems. That's gone. Poof. I even mentioned a couple of days ago that anything the government order says, I don't believe a thing she'll ever say ever again. So we've lost confidence in our health systems and our politicians who apparently have embraced this. We've already lost. That's a big thing. Losing trust, because the people don't know who to turn to. You thought you could trust your government. Obviously, of course, I've known that since 2008 when I finally figured out that really what happened with the World Trade Center. It was an inside job, totally. Swear to God, it was. I'm not crazy or making that up. There's solid reasons for me saying that. Google Building 7, Building 7, Building 7. Figure that out, okay? And I guess now it's time for the Brietbart headline news. Before I do that, I'd like to read you guys some headlines from a few other sources. It was funny that Tucker started out his report with that tape that I of the mayor of Chicago having that battle over the phone with that alderman, and I reported that earlier today. He started to show out on that, but he played the whole thing, man. What I didn't know was that apparently when that was done, there was 50 aldermen on the phone at the time, not just a few. It was a big conference call, and the public was listening in on that, including children and shit. I didn't know that. And again, anybody that listens to that, how can you have any confidence in your public officials? They're sitting there going, "Fuck you, you blow me," People, imagine the kids listening, going, "What are they saying, mommy?" "Oh, nothing. Don't worry about it." They were saying "tuck you," not. They were talking about Tucker, not fucker. Yeah, or something. They had to make a couple of excuses right away. Scramble. All right, hang on. A couple of nights ago, I started reading some headlines from a place called naturalnews.com, which you guys would never see otherwise. You can't get it off the web. From YouTube, you'd have to actually type it in. Naturalnews.com. Here's another site that you're not going to be able to get to from YouTube. It's called banned.video. BANNED.VIDEO. And let me try to read some headlines from this outlet here. Antifa fights racism by attacking people in their cars. Black looting, murder. Black Lives Matter is a globalist Trojan horse. See, this they don't hold back on this. If any of the headlines I'm reading right now, just those headlines alone are getting people fired right now. Things have gone completely crazy right now. They're one guy, they fired a guy, some soccer guy somewhere in California because of something his wife tweeted, and then she deleted the tweet. So they called this guy in and they fired him for that, for something his wife tweeted and deleted. If she would have just said any one of these headlines, anybody says any of these headlines, they're getting fired. And they're probably going to start kicking my door down because that's what they do. It's a fucking mob. But Black Lives Matter is a globalist Trojan horse, yes. That's exactly what it is. UN funding, global riots for gun confiscation. Okay, Alex Jones breaks down the State Department Memorandum 7277, the UN plan for total something. I don't know. Tucker Carlson is right. The cultural revolution has come to America. Bill Gates is the globalist goblin king. Antifa, okay, well, that's it. Let me try to find some more headlines. Give me a second here. Wait. A lot of these headlines are pretty much clickbait. So you'll read their own articles, but it's not clickbait because you're already on their newspaper. So, but highlights things continue to get more surreal every day. Okay, must watch InfoWars George Floyd dance party. What the hell was that? Okay, Democrats and Chinese communists launch coordinated attack on well, I guess I have to click on it to see on what. On America. War Room. It's their War Room shows. Soros takeover of police equals death camps. Soros takeover of police equals death camps. So this publication, they're really kind of extreme, and they know that George Soros is running the show, and these are the people that you really, if you really want to, and sounds like high level conspiracy shit here, but these guys are right 80% of the time or 85% of the time, and they would never report anything. They wouldn't just make up shit. Okay, one of the things they reported on was the fact that some county in Chicago had noticed that a great percentage of the frogs were homosexual frogs, okay, and they noticed that, and it turned out to be something with the glyphosate, some chemical that was in the water was causing this, okay. Alex Jones reported on this maybe 10 years ago, and boy, they said, "Oh, look at him! He says the gay frogs, you know," and he was right about it. But they turn him into like a flaming like he's making this shit up. Flaming conspiracy theorist, a tinfoil hat guy, but he's right about it. I mean, he doesn't report on this shit just to make it up. He's right about it, and a million other things that you don't even know about. So you can broach this if you want to try to take a little red pill here. Go down to band.video and look at stuff. The most important thing on here right now is this undercover Millie investigation, where she talks about the fact that the riots were pre-planned, and she even identifies the actual groups that did it. She's even got phone calls and everything like that. That's awesome reporting of stuff that's really important. I gotta tell you, some of the videos on band.video wind up popping up on Tucker Carlson. So somebody's watching this shit, and they've been around a long, long time. The best commentators on this channel are Owen Schroyer and David Knight, and Millie Weaver, Paul Joseph Watson. I've actually mentioned these people before, and there's just a whole bunch of them. Well, those are the best ones. All right, okay. It's time for Brietbart News Headlines. Must watch. New York Police Union boss, quote, "Stop treating us like animals and thugs." Yeah, we were talking about there's a lot of static between the police unions and everything else. They're obviously being targeted, and so they're saying, "Hey, lay off of us." So it's an all-out war because you want to get rid of all the police, do that, and that leaves the country open for chaos. Sharpton demands NFL, quote, "give Kaepernick back a job at the Floyd funeral." Fucking Al Sharpton, man. He's the worst of anybody in the world. He's pathetic, man. Okay, and then it says ... Okay, there's more. It says invokes scripture to R.I.P. Trump. Whoa. Invokes scripture to R.I.P. Trump. What's that? Wait a minute. I gotta read this article. Hang on a minute. Hello. Okay, Reverend Al Sharpton, who delivered the eulogy at George Floyd's funeral in Houston on Tuesday, invoked scripture to rip Trump. I thought it was like R.I.P., like rest in peace, because it was at a funeral and stuff, okay? Just to rip Trump, okay? They should have said rip into Trump, okay? during a rant on the reality of, quote, wickedness in high places, using the president's visit to St. John's Episcopal Church, which caught fire during a night of violent riots in D.C., as an example. Let's see how long this video is. This one here, hang on. Well, listen to.
The president talks about bringing in the military.
Wait, sorry.
But he's not said one word about 8 minutes and 46 seconds of police murder of George Floyd. Oh, he said the family has my sympathy and all of this. He didn't give those on other situations their sympathy. He challenged China on human rights. But what about the human right of George Floyd? You're sitting now trying to figure out how you're going to stop the protest rather than how you're going to stop the brutality. You're calling your cabinet in trying to figure out how it's going to affect your vote rather than how it's going to affect our lives. You're scheming on how you can spin the story rather than you can achieve justice, wickedness in high places. You take rubber bullets and tear gas to clear out peaceful protesters, and then take a Bible and walk in front of a church and use a church as a prop. Wickedness in high places. You ain't been walking across that street when the church didn't have the boards up. You wasn't holding up no Bible when Aubrey was killed in Brunswick, when Taylor was killed in Louisville. Wickedness in high places.
I'm not even going to comment on that. This is exactly what are the face of our enemy right here, unfortunately. It's just kind of talk. Okay. California homes flying American flags targeted by arsonists. Oh, really? California homes flying American flags targeted by arsonists. That doesn't scare you. I don't know what the fuck is ever going to scare you right there. If people don't wake up right now and stop this fucking insanity, we're going to lose the country. This is the biggest threat to America ever. It's worse than World War II. Literally. I can't believe this is happening. That is so serious. That bothers me. That really bothers me, guys. All right. You won't see this on your mainstream ever. They wouldn't report on that. No way. Riots forced closure of 70 coronavirus test sites. I believe that actually meant 70%. If you listen to that interviewee on Tucker Carlson tonight, that's what he said. He said 70% of the testing sites, I think. All right, anyway. Protesters take over city blocks in Seattle, blockade streets, call for armed guards. Protesters who are part of the wave of unrest across the country in the wake of the death of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police on Monday took over city blocks in Seattle, set up barricades, and have implemented on social media and have implied on social media that they will use armed guards to secure their occupation. What's that? Let me read this one more time because I can't believe what I just heard. It sounded to me like the protesters said they just took over the city. and they block, and that's it. Hang on a minute. Protesters who are part of a wave of unrest across the country in the wake of the death of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police on Monday took over city blocks in Seattle, setting up barricades, and some have implied on social media that they will use armed guards to secure their operation. I don't know if you guys know who Andy No is. Andy, his name is Andy. I was pronouncing it Nye because I thought that was the pronunciation, but apparently it's No. It's Andy No. And it's spelled NG and then an O with the umlaut over it. I think he's from Vietnam or something like that. He's replying in a tweet. He said, "Seattle mayor is allowing a dangerous situation to fester. Antifa militants have taken over and created an autonomous zone in city with their own rules." Police precinct abandoned. Antifa set up barricades to create a border, calling for volunteers to provide armed guards. That ain't got nothing to do with George Floyd, I gotta tell you. That's a military operation right there. And you guys have to be more and more aware of this. If you listen to these conspiracy nuts, you'd know what really is going on here. These are paid thugs hired by George Soros, and they've gotten out of control. I was mentioning one of my things a couple weeks ago that these guys have gotten more and more power now. That when they smash and grab all that gold, they got money now. They can keep their stuff going, and it is never going to stop ever now. And this is what's happening now. They're fortifying. All right. If this shit doesn't scare you, I don't know. I mean, if this doesn't make you afraid that we may lose the country, then maybe you don't actually fear it, and maybe you actually believe their shit. If that's the case, don't listen to me. Turn me off. Go somewhere else, man. Because you have to decide right now. Are you going to believe those idiots or not? I know I hate to put you in like that. That's what they did to us. Indecision is guilt. That's what they're telling us now. This is so bad. So fucking bad. Oh, yeah, okay. Update. City Council President cancels, quote, private LAPD protection after moving to cut LAPD budget. So the City Council in Los Angeles are doing something like what they're doing up in Minneapolis. These guys are agents paid to make sure that they throw the entire United States into chaos. So they'll get paid a little money for that, but they don't give a fuck about the actual country. Either that or they're being threatened. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are all being threatened by something really serious, some evil force. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. Okay, George Floyd funeral includes call to, quote, clean out the White House. And George Floyd's niece said, when has America ever been great? So to clean out the White House, what's that tell you, man? They're not just going to clean it up. They want to murder the president, okay? They're not, none of these guys are talking about anything going after Pelosi. You notice that? It's all directed toward Trump. What about the rest of the United States government? How come, if they care about the government, why are they singling out Trump? Why aren't they talking about the rest of them? Come on. It's the Democrats' war machine is what it is. If that doesn't scare you guys, I don't know. They're saying if you don't elect us, we're gonna slaughter you, basically. That's what's happening. Why have elections at all? Oh, it's like North Korea, they have elections, but there's only one guy to vote for. Or there's A and B, if you vote the B, and you walk out and they take you in the parking lot and shoot you in the back of the head. All right, Nation of Islam provided security for the George Floyd funeral. Well, there's a militaristic branch right there. They're brandishing their arms. What they're doing. That's why we have military parades, by the way. George Floyd funeral. Pastor tells white churches, quote, "We are not as good as we ought to be." Boy, I don't know why they keep talking about black, white, black, white, black, white. They've got everybody doing it now. There's no people anymore. We've become tribal. We're tribes. The Zulus against the Ubus. All right. Coronavirus shuts down devastated jobs throughout U.S. economy. Coronavirus shutdowns devastated jobs throughout U.S. economy. Well, duh. Oh, wait. Except on Wall Street and in government. Yeah. That's why the stock market seems to be going. I can't believe it, but yeah. It's like they wiped out all the small business guys. That's all. The only people that really suffer from this whole thing are small business owners. And that's period. We're the ones that survive. That I say we because my dad used to be a heating man, so I'm throwing myself in that. Okay, Tucker Carlson, quote, "Black Lives Matter is now a political party." Yeah, I think he said that yesterday. Okay, Whitmer falsely claims she, quote, "wore a mask the whole time during the George Floyd protest." Don't get me started with Whitmer. I've been all over her shit today. She's a murderess and a horrible person, a liar, and she's got to go. I think of all the people in the world, if I somehow had the power of God, she'd be way up there on that list to suffer my wrath if I was God. I don't even believe in God, actually. I don't know if you know that or not. But anyway, Biden campaign quiet on staff donations to group backing defunding of police. Yeah, I commented about 3 days ago. I bet that was Simone Sanders doing that shit. She's also not my favorite person. Bernie Sanders comes out against abolishing police. Oh, thank you, Bernie. And by the way, Biden walked that back a little bit. Biden sort of indicated that he was that way, and then when somebody after the interview they bitch slapped and said, "You realize what you just said?" And then they had a interview, like one of those setup interviews, as if it was an interview, or he made a statement saying, "Oh no, it's not really that good an idea." Yeah, fuck yeah, everybody better walk that one back, man. Everybody better walk that one right the fuck back. Defunding the police. That's the line right there. Anybody that agrees with that is a traitor to the country. And actually, that's grounds to be tried and for treason right there. It really is. It is. It's not like saying, "Oh, this guy hurt me." No. That's against the nation right there. I don't know the words, but you guys know what I'm trying to say here. GOP officials eye Jacksonville, Florida, to host Republican National Convention. Attempt to fact-check coronavirus 5G conspiracies backfire. What's that about? Yeah, I'm not into 5G conspiracies, actually, but probably there's a lot to it. Social media giant Twitter has reportedly begun aggressively fact-checking tweets linking 5G wireless technology to the Wuhan coronavirus, but the fact-checking system is reportedly displaying many errors, leading to a mockery from users. People are saying that coronavirus, really, there's no virus. People are just getting sick because they turned on 5G. What about that? Well, I haven't even talked about that. I'm not going there. It says Twitter finally plans to revamp its inconsistent verification system. Yeah, Twitter, fuck you guys, man. You guys aren't going to believe this. I swear to God, I wrote a system when I worked for Ford back in the early 90s, that was Twitter. I swear to God, I wrote it. It's was called the Alarm Notification System when I worked for Ford Motor Company. You got all this information from the shop floor, all this stuff, and it would acquire all this data and make decisions on the data, and then dispatch pages off to people that were interested. Like if a machine broke on the floor, it would call the guy, the machine repairman. I wrote that system, every line of it from scratch. It took me like 5 years to write that software, and that really was Twitter. But I have never been on Twitter ever myself. I won't do it, man, or Facebook either. I was on Facebook for like a week, and that's it. Because I don't like what they're doing with that shit. But anyway, I don't think anybody should be on that stuff. All they're using it right now, if you know, they're arresting people based upon their tweets, and they're obtaining these things called social scores, not social distancing. They're actually they're trying to rate people based upon their social cooperation, and so they actually, if a guy is writing stuff about raping children and murdering horses and stuff, he's not going to be as social. He won't get as high of a social number as somebody that's righteous, like a priest or something like that. Although not like that, but I don't know, whatever political orientation they have at the time. If you're with it, then you get a high social score, and they're using that in China to say how much food you can get and stuff like that. They're actually using this stuff. I swear to God. And that's part of this information tracking system. That they're using the data, and they know who you are and what you do, and they can actually, like for example, if you had a guy that was flushing the toilet 1,000 times, they would actually know who you are because you got a smart toilet, and they know that you're moving inside your house, and one of the days they're going to cut off your toilet. You think that's a crazy example? It's not crazy at all. It's a really excellent example. In countries that have no water, this is exactly how they would have to overcome this stuff. Now, what's social score have to do with this? Well, they're going to use that as well, just to get people to be cooperative. And if you want to know more about that stuff, you should look at the Corbett Report in my links below, okay? AOC, quote, defund police shouldn't be repackaged to make it palatable for affluent whites. Man, she's at the top. She's right at the pinnacle of our overtaking, of our attack. She's right up there. Trump unleashes Twitter attack on elderly man injured by police at New York protests. Trump said, could he be an Antifa provocateur, setup. Trump actually said that. He shouldn't say shit like that, even if it's true. So that doesn't help anything by him saying that. We're talking about this guy, this older guy, that he walked up to the police in Buffalo, I believe, and the guy pushed him like that, and he wound up going back, and he tripped over his own foot, and he hit his head really hard on the concrete. He started bleeding out of his ears, and they took him off to the hospital. And Trump went ahead and said that guy may be an Antifa provocateur. He might have been, but the guy was really old. But one thing I want to tell you guys that I heard on Millennial Millie's report is very, very important. Very, very important, okay? Okay. She said that the guys, and watch her report, okay, it's linked below. They say that what they're doing, even within the Antifa guys, let's say they got 200 people that they got all on social media that want to attack a town. This is what they're doing, okay? They're splitting people up racially. They're going in groups of 10 and 20. Groups of 10 white guys and groups of 20 black guys. Groups of 15 white guys. They're having these little small groups, and they're doing this on purpose. If you watch what's going on, you wonder why is all of a sudden all these guys white in a group? All these guys are black in a group. What's going on? That's why. All right. So that's why it's so important to watch this stuff. Okay. This report by Millennial Millie is really, really good. Watch it. Okay? Alright, Minneapolis Freedom Funds faces scrutiny for Antifa Soros ties, demands defunding of police. Now, here's exactly what I'm talking about exactly here, okay? Let's read this article here. This is the most important thing you're ever going to read right here, okay? They have to this article, I'm going to link this to the specific article, okay? It says Minnesota Freedom Fund faces scrutiny for Antifa and Soros ties, comma, demands defunding of police. So they have a photograph of George Soros here. I'm going to play it. 6 minutes, 50 seconds long.
Minnesota Freedom Fund faces scrutiny for Antifa and Soros ties, demands defunding of police. By David Ng on June 9, 2020. As major cities begin picking up the pieces after days of destruction, the rioters and looters can rest easy knowing that they have a get-out-of-jail-free card waiting for them. Bailout charities are suddenly flush with cash, especially the Minnesota Freedom Fund, MFF, which has received an unprecedented level of donations from Hollywood stars including Justin Timberlake, Steve Carell, and Seth Rogen. The revolution will be celebrified, thanks to aggressive Hollywood crowdsourcing. The MFF's stated objective is simple. It raises donations that it uses to bail out suspected criminals from jail and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, detention. The once obscure group used to pull in a mere $110,000 a year in donations, according to public tax records. But since the death of George Floyd while in Minneapolis police custody, it has raked in more than $20 million in less than a week. MFF's sudden windfall raises questions about how the organization, which is led by a George Soros acolyte who is also a convicted drug offender, is actually spending its money. Are funds being used to bail out violent Antifa members? Will some of that cash find its way into the coffers of Democrat politicians or special interests? The group's aggressive demands to defund the police are also garnering attention. MFF is encouraging donations to reclaim the block, which has called for government divestment from the Minneapolis police. Reclaim is receiving financial support from the Squad, Reps. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. MFF has been suspected of harboring Antifa sympathies through its close collaboration with the National Lawyers Guild, a radical leftist organization that has been called Antifa's unofficial legal arm. President Donald Trump's decision to classify Antifa as a domestic terror group could bring federal scrutiny to how MFF is using its money. In the days since #Black Lives Matter protests have swept the country, the MFF has become more brazen in its political rhetoric, including demands that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, defund the police. It has also attracted support from prominent Democrat politicians, including several Joe Biden staffers. MFF, which didn't respond to a request for comment, is legally restricted from giving money to political campaigns due to its 501c3 nonprofit status. Senator Kamala Harris is encouraging people to donate money to MFF. At least 13 Joe Biden campaign staffers have also given money, which prompted a rebuke from President Trump. Biden has said he doesn't support defunding the police. In his tweet, President Trump implied that MFF is working to get anarchists out of jail, and probably more. While MFF hasn't publicly supported Antifa, it coordinates its bail work with the National Lawyers Guild, NLG, which to support Antifa. The NLG recently defended the violent far-left group against President Trump's decision to label it as a domestic terrorist. Trump's declaration that Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization has no basis in fact or law and is merely an attempt to criminalize ordinary people who are exercising their right to protest, NLG said in a statement. MFF partners with the NLG to set bail for suspected criminals. People who have been arrested and jailed during recent #Black Lives Matter protests are being told to call the NLG, which will then contact the MFF to provide bail money. Greg Lewin, board president of MFF, recently sent out a notice saying that the NLG knows to contact the MFF regarding bail. New York City Antifa has also advised its members to familiarize yourself with the numbers for the National Lawyers Guild. Both organizations have strong ties to anti-Trump billionaire George Soros. MFF Executive Director Tanya Hunzi was named a Soros Justice Fellow by the Open Society Foundations in 2019. Hunzi is a convicted drug offender who was arrested during a meth lab bust in 2002. She has also served time for theft and check forgery. Since being freed, she has worked as a criminal justice reformer and has served on Minnesota's Sentencing Guidelines Commission. The radical NLG has received funding from Soros's Open Society and has partnered with Soros-backed organizations. The NLG has a history of hostility toward journalists looking into its ties to Antifa. Last week, its Portland, Oregon chapter told investigative reporter Andy Ngo to fuck off when he said that the NLG operates as Antifa's legal arm. In reply to a request for comment, MFF doesn't publicly disclose the names of the people it bails out of jail. The group tweeted that it spent $69,836 freeing 266 individuals from county jail last year. It spends about $5,000 a month for ICE bonds. Those figures are expected to grow exponentially now that the fund is rolling in money. Hollywood celebrities have turned the group into a Twitter cause célèbre as stars including